The silent screams, the observation deck of the Galactic Council's flagship, Harmony stretched across half a kilometer of transparent aluminum, offering a breathtaking view of the Andorian Nebula. Ambassador Zara Chun stood with her hands clasped, behind her back, watching the swirling clouds of cosmic dust paint the darkness in shades of purple and gold. Even after 15 years as Earth's representative to the Council, she never tired of the sight. Ambassador Chun, your presence is requested in the emergency session, came the melodic voice of Secretary Lyra, a member of the crystalline Velinari species. Her translucent form shimmered as she approached, each step creating a soft chiming sound. Zara turned from the viewport, her expression growing serious. Emergency sessions were rare in the Galactic Council. The last one had been called 8 years ago, when a rogue asteroid threatened the agricultural world of Vesha Prime. What's the situation, Lyra? 3 star systems have gone completely silent in the past 2 weeks. No communications, no energy signatures, no life signs. It's as if they simply vanished. The walk to the council chambers felt longer than usual. Zara's mind raced through possibilities as they moved through corridors filled with beings from dozens of species. The Galactic Council represented over 200 civilizations, all united under the banner of peaceful cooperation and technological advancement. War had been eliminated through diplomacy and mutual understanding. Conflicts were resolved through negotiation, not violence. The council chamber was in chaos when they arrived. High Counselor Veltar, an ethereal being whose form shifted between states of matter, was attempting to maintain order as dozens of delegates spoke simultaneously. The Aquatic Federation's representatives floated in their environmental suits, their bioluminescent patterns flashing in agitation. The insectoid hive collective buzzed in their harmonic language, while the plant-like Sylvani rustled their leaves in distress. Order. Please, respected delegates, we must approach this systematically. Veltar's voice resonated through the chamber, somehow calming despite the urgency. Zara took her seat in the human section, noting how isolated it appeared compared to the clustered seating of the other species. Humanity had joined the Council only 30 years ago, and many still viewed them as the galaxy's youngest and most unpredictable member. The facts are disturbing, Veltar continued as the chamber quieted. The Kepler 442 system, home to the Drakmari mining colonies, ceased all communication 6 days ago. Long-range sensors show no energy signatures whatsoever. The Vega Secundus system went silent 3 days later, followed by the Proxima Centauri B settlements yesterday. Counselor Thranks of the Mechanical Synthesis spoke up, his robotic voice precise and calculated. Probability analysis suggests equipment failure or coordinated terrorist action. Our peacekeeping forces are investigating. With respect, Counselor. Thranks, interrupted Dr. Nerith of the Advanced Scientific Collective, her 6 arms gesturing emphatically. Our most sophisticated sensors cannot detect any trace of the missing populations. 12 billion beings do not simply disappear due to equipment failure. Zara leaned forward. What about the automated distress beacons? Every settlement has them. That's what makes this so troubling, Veltar replied. The beacons stopped transmitting simultaneously across each system, not gradually, not in sequence. All at once, as if something shut them down instantly. A chill ran down Zara's spine. She had read classified reports about similar phenomena during her military service before becoming a diplomat. Mass simultaneous failures typically meant one thing: an enemy capable of coordinated, large-scale attacks. Have we detected any unusual energy signatures? Unknown ship movements? She asked. Counselor Yenth of the Psionic Confederation closed his multiple eyes in concentration. My people have sensed ... disturbances, echoes of terror and confusion, and absolute silence. Whatever happened, It occurred too quickly for anyone to understand or resist. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations, protected by energy shields and quantum weapons, had been neutralized without a trace. "There is one more thing," Veltar said, his form flickering with uncertainty. Long-range deep space monitors detected unusual gravitational anomalies moving through dark space between the affected systems. The signatures are unlike anything in our databases. High Counselor Veltar activated the chamber's primary display, showing a three-dimensional map of local space. 3 star systems were marked in red, their normal blue energy signatures replaced by ominous black voids. Between them, faint traces of something moving through the darkness. "The patterns suggest deliberate movement," continued Dr. Nerith. "Whatever is responsible is heading toward the inner systems where our most populous worlds are located." Panic began to ripple through the chamber. The avian collective's representatives took flight, circling nervously overhead. The crystalline assembly's geometric forms began shifting into defensive configurations. "What are options?" asked Counselor Marin of the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. "Our peacekeeping fleet is equipped with the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy," Thranks responded. "Quantum disruptors, plasma cannons, gravitational manipulators. If hostile forces are responsible, we can neutralize them." But Zara felt a growing unease. She had spent her youth studying military history, back when Earth was still divided into warring nations. Every instinct told her that this was beyond conventional warfare. "Counselor Thranks, what happens if our energy weapons prove ineffective? What if whatever destroyed 3 entire star systems can counter our technology?" The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The suggestion that the galaxy's most advanced weapons might fail was almost unthinkable. "Impossible," declared Counselor Luxon of the Energy Beings. "Our technology has evolved beyond primitive physical weapons. Energy manipulation at the quantum level can overcome any defense." "Then why are 3 star systems empty?" Zara asked. Quietly, before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed the chamber in red as automated systems announced an incoming priority transmission. The main display shifted to show a badly damaged escape pod drifting in space. Inside, a single figure in a radiation suit gestured frantically at the camera. The audio was filled with static, but fragments came through. ... They came from nowhere. Ships made of darkness. Our weapons passed right through them. They're feeding on everything ... consuming energy itself. They're coming for the core worlds ... warn everyone." The transmission cut to static. Then silence. Veltar's form brightened with urgency. That pod was recovered at the edge of the Vega Secundus system. The survivor is a Drakmari engineer named Vorth. He's the only known witness to whatever destroyed his world. "We need to debrief him immediately," Thranks stated. "Impossible. The pod's life support failed minutes after we received the transmission. However, its computer banks contained partial sensor data from the attack. The display showed grainy images of massive shapes moving through space. They looked almost like living shadows, absorbing light and energy around them. Where they passed, stars dimmed and space itself seemed to bend. The creatures appeared to be composed of some form of dark energy," Dr. Nerith explained. "Our sensors can barely detect them. They move through space by manipulating gravitational fields and feed on electromagnetic radiation, including the energy from our weapons," Zara realized. It would seem so. Every energy-based attack only makes them stronger. Counselor Luxon's brilliant form flickered with disbelief. "That's impossible. Energy beings like myself have existed for millions of years. We would have encountered such creatures before." "Unless they've been dormant," Zara suggested, "waiting for the galaxy to develop advanced enough civilizations to provide sufficient energy to sustain them. The truth was becoming clear, and it terrified everyone present. The galaxy's greatest strength, its advanced energy-based technology, had become its greatest weakness. So what do we do? Asked Counselor Marin, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara stood up slowly, knowing what she had to say would shock the entire assembly. We need to consider unconventional solutions. Weapons and tactics that don't rely on energy manipulation. You mean primitive technology? Thranx's voice carried obvious disdain. Kinetic weapons? Chemical explosives? Such barbaric methods were abandoned millennia ago. Barbaric, yes, but potentially effective against enemies that feed on energy. Zara looked around the chamber at the faces, or equivalent features, of beings who had lived in peace for generations. We need warriors who understand old-fashioned warfare. Are you suggesting we arm ourselves with stone spears and wooden clubs? Luxon asked mockingly. I'm suggesting we contact the species that never fully abandoned such weapons. The ones who still remember how to fight wars with metal and fire instead of pure energy. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Every delegate knew exactly which species Zara was referring to. Humans, Veltar said quietly. Asterisk. Not just any humans. The ones who served in Earth's military before joining the Council. The ones we asked to retire their weapons and become peacekeepers. Zara's voice grew stronger. We need soldiers who understand that sometimes you have to get close to your enemy and hurt them the old-fashioned way. The debate that followed was intense. Many delegates argued that humanity's violent past made them unsuitable for such responsibility. Others worried about setting a precedent that could destabilize galactic peace. But as reports came in of more star systems going silent, the arguments became academic. Finally, Veltar called for a vote. All in favor of requesting military assistance from human combat specialists? The vote was close, but it passed. For the first time in galactic history, the Council was officially sanctioning a return to warfare. As the session ended and delegates filed out in worried clusters, Zara remained in her seat, already composing messages to contacts she hadn't spoken to in years. Captain Sarah Morrison, the former Marine, who now ran security for a mining colony. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the xenobiologist, who had served as a military researcher. Commander Patricia Wong, who had been forced to retire when the Council banned kinetic weapons. She was about to call in Earth's guest killers to save a galaxy that had spent centuries trying to forget how to kill. The irony wasn't lost on her, but neither was the necessity. 3 days later, at a classified location in the Terran system, Sarah Morrison stood before a gathering of the most dangerous humans in known space. 37 men and women who had traded their weapons for peaceful pursuits, but who still carried the skills and instincts of humanity's warrior heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah began, her scarred face serious in the dim light. The galaxy needs what they've spent decades trying to eliminate from us. They need our capacity for violence, our willingness to get dirty, and our complete disregard for fair play when survival is at stake. She activated a holographic display showing the advancing darkness consuming star after star. These things eat energy. They laugh at quantum weapons and feed on plasma cannons. But they've never faced a species crazy enough to build nuclear warheads and call it progress. The assembled warriors exchanged knowing looks. They had been waiting for this moment, even if they hadn't known it. Time to show the galaxy why Earth is considered a death world, Sarah concluded. Time to prove that sometimes the best answer to sophisticated evil is a really big gun and the will to use it. The War Council began immediately. Within hours, messages were being sent across human space, calling up reserves and activating stockpiles of weapons that the Council had tried to forget existed. Humanity was going to war, and for the first time in galactic history, The civilized species were going to be grateful for their barbarity. Asterisk Fire meets the Void Commander Jake Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching his fleet assemble in the darkness between stars. 57 ships, ranging from converted cargo haulers to the few remaining military vessels that Earth had kept for historical purposes. Each one bristled with weapons that the Galactic Council had banned decades ago. Railguns, missile launchers, nuclear torpedoes, and chemical explosives. "Sir, we're receiving final confirmation from Admiral Nakamura," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. "The Void Feeders are 3 hours out from the Centauri colonies. Population, 4 billion beings." Jake nodded grimly. The enemy had consumed 6 more star systems while the human fleet assembled. The Council's peacekeeping forces had tried to engage them twice with catastrophic results. Energy weapons not only failed to harm the creatures, but seemed to make them stronger and more aggressive. "Status report from all ships," Jake ordered. "Kinetic weapons loaded and ready across the fleet," reported weapons specialist Marcus Thompson from his station. "Nuclear warheads armed, conventional missiles prepared. The mining ships have those industrial charges ready for close-range work." "What about our alien allies?" "The Drakmari survivors insist on coming with us. They've retrofitted some of their mining equipment with human weapons. The Velinary crystalline beings say they can provide sensor support, but their energy forms make them vulnerable to the feeders." Jake studied the tactical display. The Void Feeders appeared as dark smudges against the star field, their presence detectable only by the way they bent light and consumed energy around them. Intelligence suggested there were hundreds of the creatures, possibly thousands. "Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Nakamura," Park announced. The main screen activated, showing the weathered face of humanity's most experienced military commander. Admiral Keiko Nakamura had fought in the last wars on Earth before the planet unified, and her tactical genius was legendary. "Jake, I hope you're ready for the strangest battle in human history," she began without preamble. "Our scouts confirm the feeders are heading directly for Centauri Prime. We have one advantage. They don't know we're coming." "What's the plan, Admiral?" "Hit them with everything we have before they can adapt. These things learn fast, but they've never faced kinetic weapons before. We need to hurt them badly in the first engagement." The tactical briefing that followed was unlike anything in recorded military history. The enemy couldn't be reasoned with, negotiated with, or defeated through conventional energy weapons. They were forces of nature given malevolent intelligence, and they had to be stopped with the rawest applications of physical force. "Remember," Admiral Nakamura concluded, "we're not just fighting for humanity. We're fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy. They're counting on us to do what they can't. Get dirty, get violent, and win ugly." As the transmission ended, Jake looked around his bridge. His crew were volunteers, mostly former military personnel who had been retired when humanity joined the Council. They knew this might be a one-way mission. "All hands, this is the commander," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "In 30 minutes, we engage an enemy that's already destroyed worlds. Our weapons are primitive by galactic standards, but they're exactly what this situation demands. We're going to show the galaxy that there are still times when the best technology is a big stick and the will to swing it." The fleet moved into attack formation as they approached the Centauri system. The Void Feeders had already begun their assault on the outer planets, their dark forms swarming around Centauri Prime like antibodies attacking an infection. "Jesus," whispered Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station. "Jake, you need to see this." The main screen showed Centauri Prime's orbital defenses firing desperately at the feeders. Quantum cannons, plasma arrays, and gravitational disruptors unleashed enough energy to power a small star. The Void Feeders absorbed every shot, growing larger and darker with each impact. "Sir, We're receiving a distress call from the Planetary Defense Commander, Park reported. A terrified voice filled the bridge. This is Commander Vel Kuth of Centauri Defense. Our weapons are useless. They're feeding on our energy grid. Creatures are draining power from our cities. We have maybe an hour before complete system failure. Commander Velkith, this is Jake Rodriguez of the Human Fleet. Jake responded. We're here to help. Shut down all energy weapons and evacuate your people to the planet's surface. We're going to try something different. Human Fleet? But your weapons are primitive. How can you succeed where our advanced technology has failed? Because sometimes primitive is exactly what you need. Jake cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships, execute Alpha Strike. Target the largest feeders first. Full spread nuclear warheads. 57 ships opened fire simultaneously, not with beams of energy or exotic particles, but with crude missiles carrying nuclear warheads. The weapons were ancient by galactic standards, relics of humanity's violent past that the Council had tried to eliminate. Asterisk. The missiles streaked through space on ballistic trajectories, their chemical propulsion systems invisible to the feeder's energy-sensing capabilities. The creatures, focused on draining power from Centauri Prime's defenses, didn't react until the first warheads detonated. Nuclear fire blossomed in the darkness, not as controlled energy discharges, but as raw fusion reactions that converted matter directly into heat and radiation. The void feeders, expecting to absorb and redirect energy attacks, were unprepared for the chaotic violence of atomic weapons. Direct hits on multiple targets, Thompson reported excitedly. The feeders they're actually taking damage. The largest feeder, easily the size of a space station, writhed as nuclear fire consumed portions of its dark mass. For the first time since the attacks began, one of the creatures showed signs of pain and confusion. But the victory was short-lived. The surviving feeders quickly adapted, their forms shifting to become more resistant to nuclear radiation. Worse, they began moving toward the human fleet with obvious hostile intent. Sir, they're coming for us, Kim reported. Energy readings suggest they're preparing some kind of attack. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Conventional weapons, full spread. Don't give them time to adapt to any single weapon type. The battle became a deadly dance in space. Human ships fired railgun rounds, chemical explosives, kinetic penetrators, and electromagnetic pulse weapons in rapid succession. Each weapon type worked briefly before the feeders adapted, forcing the humans to constantly change tactics. Sergeant. Lisa O'Brien's converted cargo ship Bulldozer closed to point-blank range with a medium-sized feeder, using industrial mining charges to blast chunks off its dark hull. These things don't like old-fashioned explosives, she reported over the com. The chemical reactions are too chaotic for them to absorb, but the cost was enormous. 3 human ships were destroyed when they failed to evade feeder counterattacks. The creatures had learned to project focused gravitational fields that could crush spacecraft like tin cans. Jake, we're not winning this. Admiral Nakamura's voice came through the static of battle. There are too many of them, and they're adapting faster than we can change tactics. Jake studied the tactical display, his mind racing. The feeders had formed a sphere around Centauri Prime, systematically draining the planet of energy. Soon, billions of beings would die as life support systems failed. Then he noticed something in the sensor data. The largest feeder, the one they had nicknamed Alpha, was positioned at the center of the formation. Energy flowed from the smaller creatures toward it in a constant stream. Marcus, look at this pattern. What do you see? Thompson studied the display. It looks like they're networked. The little ones feed energy to the big one, and it coordinates their actions. A hive mind, Jake realized. Take out the queen, and the rest become uncoordinated. Sir, Alpha is the size of a small moon. We'd need to get close enough to plant nuclear charges directly on its hull. Jake looked around his bridge crew, seeing the same realization in their eyes. It was a suicide mission, but it might be the only way to save Centauri Prime. All ships, this is Commander Rodriguez. We're going to ram Alpha with everything we have. Load every nuclear weapon, every chemical explosive, every kinetic round. We're going to show these things what happens when you threaten human-protected space. The response was immediate and unanimous. Every ship in the fleet acknowledged the order without hesitation. They were going to die, but they were going to take the enemy with them. The Indomitable led the charge, its engines at maximum burn, as it accelerated toward the massive feeder. The other ships formed up behind it, their hulls loaded with enough explosives to crack a planet. Alpha finally noticed the threat and began to turn its attention toward the human fleet. The smaller feeders moved to intercept, but the humans had one advantage. They were willing to die to win. Ships rammed through the defensive screen, their crews setting off final explosive charges as they were torn apart by gravitational forces. The bulldozer made it to within a kilometer of Alpha's hull before Sergeant O'Brien triggered her cargo hold full of mining charges. For humanity, she shouted over the comm as her ship disappeared in a massive explosion. Jake's ship was the last to reach Alpha. The bridge was barely holding together under the feeder's gravitational attack, but they were close enough to deliver their payload. Marcus, arm everything we have. Lisa, send a message to Admiral Nakamura. Tell her we did our job. The Indomitable struck Alpha's hull and penetrated deep into its dark mass before the nuclear charges detonated. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away, a brief new star that outshone the local sun. When the light faded, Alpha was gone. Without its controlling intelligence, the remaining feeders lost coordination and began to drift apart. The surviving human ships, reinforced by Admiral Nakamura's reserve fleet, hunted down the confused creatures one by one. The battle was over, but the cost had been enormous. 38 human ships destroyed, over 2,000 crew members dead. But Centauri Prime was saved, along with its 4 billion inhabitants. As rescue ships arrived to help the survivors, Commander Velkith of Centauri Defense sent a message to the human fleet. We owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You saved us with weapons we thought were obsolete and tactics we considered barbaric. Perhaps we were wrong about the value of civilization over survival. Admiral Nakamura, now commanding the combined human fleet from her flagship, responded. Simply, sometimes the most advanced answer is also the oldest one. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, and darkness with light that burns hot enough to hurt. The news of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. The peaceful species that had scorned human military technology began to reconsider their positions. Orders for kinetic weapons and chemical explosives flooded Earth's industrial centers. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned something profound about the nature of survival. Advanced technology was powerful, but it wasn't everything. Sometimes the most sophisticated enemy could be defeated by the simplest solution: the willingness to get close, get dirty, and fight with everything you had. Humanity had proven once again that being from a death world meant more than just surviving harsh conditions. It meant having the warrior spirit necessary to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, even when the odds were impossible, and the cost was everything. The void feeders were gone, but their brief presence had changed the galaxy forever. The age of pure pacifism was over. The age of prepared defense had begun, and at its heart stood the humans, the galaxy's newest protectors, armed with ancient weapons and the unbreakable will to use them. Asterisk.